Hey everyone, my name is Pratik Naik, and I've been working in the industry for over 10 years as a retoucher. The biggest problem that I've personally seen happen, whether it's my clients, myself, or other photographers, is the fact that color grading is extremely difficult to do and understand. That's why there's not a lot of content on it. Before I jump into it, I quickly want to tell you the purpose of this tool. Simply put, people don't always know what they want, but they sure know what they love when they see it. If you're like me, you usually don't know what direction to go in. Even when you find a direction that does inspire you, you really have to know how to do it. And where do you even begin to start? Infinite Color simplifies that entire process so you know actually how to get great results and do it fast. There's also this plugin come from analyzing my own personal color grades from actual campaigns and editorials that I've retouched. So even though it looks random, the settings are very intentional and produce a quality that can't be replicated by honestly anything else. It comes with my identity and color signature from years of professional experience. So the goal of the tool is to allow everyone to have fun with color grading again and get great results. Before I released Infinite Color, I actually reached out to professional working photographers in various genres just to see if they could create intricate results that they loved and complemented their work and vision just by using the tool alone. The images you see before you were created with Infinite Color. They were able to create color grades in a way that was true to them no matter how particular they were. So it showed me that anyone can do it, no matter the genre, no matter their experience level. This tool is very applicable. Following that, we've grown a huge community with thousands of other photographers following suit. And I would love to feature people on a daily basis, so that's exactly what I did. And I hope to see you here as well in the future. Now with that being said, let's just jump into it and I want to show you exactly how it works. I can't tell you how proud and excited I am for you to actually witness this tool that has truly changed the way that many photographers have worked. Especially myself, I'm not really good at color toning, and I'll be honest, this is something that I'm excited about because, as you can see from this example shot by my wife, Bella Kotak, who's a fine art photographer, I was able to create color grade within actually just a minute. And this is something so complex because I was able to actually stack 3 different looks that the panel gave me automatically to create something so beautiful. And I'll be honest, if I had to do this manually or explain to someone how to actually come up with this color grade, I wouldn't know what to do. But the beauty of this panel is based on the visual output that it shows me. I know exactly what I like and don't like, and then I can guide it and get closer to what I'm going for. And that's what I want to show you today. Let me go and hide this group for a second and start from scratch. The way this panel works is actually really simple. We have a create button in the center of it, and then we have a few different options. Now, the few different options here at the bottom are the layers that the panel itself generates. So you can see it says curves, color balance, selective color, gradient map, and color lookup, which means when I hit the create button, you can see that on the adjustment layers themselves, you can see the group called Infinite Color. And within the group itself, we have curves, color balance, selective color, gradient map, and color lookup. Very similarly, or exactly I should say, to the names of the layers on the panel. And this is important because now, instead of using the layer stack itself to turn the layers on and off, we can actually come over to the panel itself and independently turn on and off each of the layers within the color grade that it produced. And this is good, I think, because it keeps your layer stack really nice and efficient, and you don't have to even use the layer stack anymore. Let's say, for example, there is something that you would like to redo again. Perhaps I'm going to go through each of these names and turn them on and off. And this is good because it allows you to see and learn exactly which layer is doing what in the color grade. And you can see, wait a second, you know what? Selective color is actually the one doing a lot of the work when it comes to adjusting these greens to this darker magenta-ish, bluish look. I can't even explain it. And let me just rephrase this. We developed this panel because, these settings themselves that each of these adjustment layers has, they are intentionally created and the parameters are set so that all these layers themselves interact in a way that creates beautiful color tones every time you use the create button. It's not just a randomization tool. It's like these layers are playing in harmony to create a symphony that is specific to analysis that I've done on my layers every time I've come up with color grades for editorial and commercial work. It's almost like a blueprint of color grading at your fingertips. That's really important. Let's take a look at some of the other settings that this has as well. Like I mentioned before, maybe you have, selective color, which seems to be doing quite a lot of work here on this color grade, maybe you want to randomize it again, you can shuffle just that specific layer. So it's almost like a create button for these individual layers. That way you don't have to hit create every single time to redo everything. It makes it super easy for you. Last but not least, we have an intensity slider on this home page here. And that's because if you are working on images that are shadow dominant or highlight dominant, it should have different intensities, right? Shadows tend to pick up a lot of color, and it tends to shift a lot more when you adjust color, which is why shadowy images, they're very cinematic, tend to have a lot of colors attached to it that are very visible, I should say. And personally, I recommend to keep the intensity slider actually quite low and then hit the create button to begin with, because then you get a more nuanced look. You get colors that are more suited to the image, and it gives you better control over the direction it will go. If you're someone like me and who would like just to, a little taste of the way the colors are going to be modified, then a low intensity is a good way to go, because then you can see subtle shifts and slight shifts, because then you can also build off each other. Now, we also have some of the settings here. If I right click on create, you're going to see I can change the name of it. I can change the group color. As you can see, for me, I have a gray color here, which is why the group is set to gray. You can also change it to orange or red, but this will only take an effect the next time you hit the create button. So keep that in mind. I can call this toning if I want to, whatever it is that you normally call it. Next, I have a group opacity, which is something that I have set to 50. But by default, you will have yours set to 100, but it may be too intense. I have found a lot of people who use the panel tend to set the group opacity somewhere between 25 to 50 off the bat, and that's a good thing to remember. Again, we wanted these settings there so that depending on how intense or minimal you like to color grade, you have full control over it and how the panel responds to you. So don't be scared in case the colors are too intense or not intense enough. It gives you the option to do that. Finally, we have the option to have a group mask. So you see here, it has a white mask. This is really great for making sure that, colors might not impact the dress as much. Maybe this is something that you think is important. You would like to have the dress stay with the true authentic colors of the designer that they intended. Or maybe you don't want the colors to contaminate the skin. So I'll just roughly and terribly show you how I do that. So you can see with a black brush, I've selected the white mask, and now I'm going over the skin. So now it doesn't impact the skin and the dress. And I think that actually looks really good. The magenta of these leaves here tend to blend really nicely with the dress. And this is the best part about the panel, is I don't really know how to color grade the best way. Or for example, I don't know what direction this image should go in. But because I've hit the infinite color a few times, I've been able to see a variety of potential with the image. And now visually it just looks good. For me, I know when something looks good, but I don't necessarily know what that's going to be before I start color grading. So we're going in a circle here, but you can see how we have been able to use the tool to complement what we are going for or what the potential this image has, right? Finally, we have always on top, which means that the group itself is always going to stay on top of your layer stack. This is good because if you are working on retouching and you have a ton of different layers going on, you want the color grade to be at the end, so it doesn't stay underneath any skin tone adjustments or any other curves or anything going on. It has its place and you know exactly where it's going to be. So that's cool. Now, once I go back, and speaking of nuanced color, we can actually stack these color grades. So if you remember, the initial color grade that I did here, you'll see 3 different infinite color groups. This is super easy to do now. And let's say that, let me turn off my color grade stack here. Let's say that I have this color grade that we did, super nuanced. I like the way that it's going, but now I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of more color grades. I'll increase the intensity here just a little bit. And what I'll do is before I hit create, I want to hold Option on my keyboard on a Mac, or if you're on a PC, you're going to hit Alt. And with that pressed down, I'm going to hit create again. And you can see here, I have my new infinite color group with it set to the name that I have adjusted in the settings, as well as the group color and the opacity. So I'll reduce the intensity again, but this time maybe I'll just keep curves and selective color on. And I actually really like that a lot. I really like that. I'm just going to do one more for kicks and giggles. I'm going to hold Option and click on Create Again and just see what different tones I like. So with that group being set, I'm just going to keep on hitting Create without the Option button selected so I can shuffle through and get these variants. That's super interesting, actually. And this will obviously change based on who you are, but I think that looks really good. And another thing to note is that these different options that I'm stacking is just a way for me to possibly create variants, different variants of whatever I've created. Maybe I already like the first group we created, and these additional ones are just variants and minimal adjustments to what we've done before. So you can use it in that way too. Another way that you can use it is that you can just keep on stacking, and the more complex your layers are, the more intricate and unique the results are. So it's totally up to you. And I have noticed this because a lot of people that use Infinite Color tend to stack these different color groups to create intricate tones. And I'm just in love with it. And I hope you are too. Finally, the panel itself has memory. So for example, let's say I click on the toning group on top and then come back to Infinite Color. You'll see over here that the panel itself remembers that we only had curves and selective color on, as well as the intensity. Now, if I come back to the base one, Infinite Color, and I come over here, you'll see it remembers that it had everything on, as well as the intensity. This is great because every time you're trying to modify the group, for example, you really should know, how much intensity there was and what layers were on, so you can modify accordingly, and you can shuffle the layers independently and so forth. So the magic that group created for you can be replicated if you hit Create Again, or if you hit Shuffle, or whatever. So I think that's really cool. Now that you've seen that in action, let me show you how to save layers. So if you've ever created something that you know you don't want to lose forever, you can save layers right through the panel itself. You don't need to know how to make an action. So let's go over that next. I have this beautiful image here by our good friend Luca Storelli, who's a phenomenal photographer, and I want to create a color grade using Infinite Color and save those layers. So I came up with this color grade here, which allowed me to make a really nice warm summer look, and I want to save that to apply to a series of images or perhaps another set later on. And I can do that by clicking on Infinite Color as a group, expanding the folder, and while holding Shift and clicking on the first layer here, it selects all the layers within the group and the group itself. Then I want to come over to the Tools tab, and this will only be available in terms of saving or backing up and importing if you have 2021 and above. And you'll know you'll have it because you'll be able to have the plugins menu, and that's how you know that you're able to use this option. Infinite Color will work in versions before then, but this is an upgrade that comes obviously included as long as you have 2021 and above. So make sure you have that installed. Then all you need to do is click on this plus button here under User Looks. When you click on it, it'll pop up with this button, and it initiates the setup option. And all you really need to do is right click on it and name it, and that's it. So I'll call this Warm Summer, and I'll say Save Layers. And it'll say that worked, close. And then when I hit back, you can see the button right there. So now if I delete this group here and click on Warm Summer, it allows me to save those colors. Even cooler, I can share this with my friends, or anyone for that matter. If I click on this wheel option here, this cog on the top right, I can say backup or import. Backup will save everything that you have in your Tools tab here and any other settings that you've done as well. And import will allow you to import your color grades from other people too. And that's a good example, because if you have something that you see someone doing and you would love their color grades and they use Infinite Color, they can share that with you, or you can share that with them too. Because once you back up, it will generate a file, which you can then send to whoever you'd like, and they can import your colors too. So it comes up with a nice network of people who would like to share their color tones. Finally, if you'd like an online option, simply click on Open Infinite Color, create plus, and then you can rename it to whatever you'd like. You can call this Warm Summer. I'll just make it easy for us. Hit save, and there you go. That way, you never have to worry about losing whatever you've created. Finally, we have an option here under Tools For really minor adjustments or nuanced controlled adjustments at the bottom, these 4 tools, at the bottom left is an option called Regions, and Regions allows you to control your shadows, midtones, and highlights independently. So if I click on highlights and adjust the curve that it is attached to, you'll see that it's adjusting just the highlights. You can also go to the color channels independently and also adjust the colors of each area too. We also have midtones, which are areas between the shadows and highlights. So I can lift them up if I want some a softer transition. I can also go to shadows if I would like the shadows to be a little bit richer. So you're able to actually change the nuance of the photo just like that without really having to do a lot of work. Makes it super easy for you. I think being lazy is the best thing ever when you have tools that facilitate that. Next, aside from regions, we have grain. And this is a smart filter in Photoshop that allows you to add digital noise. And I call it grain because it's the most similar and easy to understand. And this is great because in case you want to adjust the amount of it, you just simply click on add noise and change the amount or percentage to decide how much you would like. Then over here next to it, I have contrast, very self-explanatory. It is a black and white adjustment layer set to soft light, and you can change the opacity of that as well. Finally, we have fade, and fade will simply just do kind of the opposite, where it will just bring more depth into the shadows. It will fade the shadows out a little bit more. So it's a cross-faded look, and you can use it for whatever you prefer using it to. With these 4 options together, I think it makes a nice nuanced example of how to adjust an image, and it complements the entire retouching set here for infinite color. Finally, let's go ahead and take a look at our final tab, which is harmony, to create harmonious tones in an image. The color harmony tab here in Infinite Color Suite allows you to create color schemes for your images. And the good thing about color schemes is that it, with little effort, allows you to create harmonious and pleasing color tones without doing much. All you really need to do is come over here, click on the Create button once you have a harmony set. So for example, let's say you have a complementary color grade or a color tone that you'd like to do. And that's the simplest example. I'll show you how this works. Once I have this button selected, you'll see an icon which has these 2 colors that are at the opposite ends of each other, or these dots that are at the opposite ends of each other, which means that the colors will be 2 and it'll create something very complementary. That's why it's called the complementary color scheme. Now I'll hit create, and now it's going to ask me what color would I like in my shadows. So I'm simply going to click on, say, this nice cyanish tone. I'll hit OK, and it's going to allow me to automatically generate this group. And don't worry, I'll adjust this in a second. But when I come over down here to my gradient map, you will see one thing happen. Under your properties, if you don't have properties loaded, it's under Window and Properties. You will see the colors themselves that are being reflected in the image. Naturally, I would not recommend you use the color blend mode by default. You can change the opacity if you want to. For this particular image, maybe having something lower is better. But let's say you would like to change the blend mode. Over here on the bottom left, we have this little icon. It says C, which is reflective of the color blend mode. When I click on it once, it changes over to soft light. And for me, I think soft light works a lot better when it comes to color grading, personally speaking. But you can experiment the differences yourself. I think soft light, what it does, adds nice contrast along with the colors that you've chosen. So it's a better integration over the original color tones in an image with ones that you've selected. You can also reselect the colors by hitting Create, and then maybe I'll want something a bit darker. It's like a dark blue like that. And see what a difference it makes by changing the brightness of that color. It automatically selected and placed the color that we put into the shadows. But on the other side of the spectrum, it created a color that's the specific complementary color tone to whatever that we've picked. And it makes it super easy for us to do. Now let's say that we would like to use some of these other options. We have a triadic, which is a 3-point color scheme. So we'll select 3 colors now that are on the opposite ends of each other. You see how it just kept that blue that we have selected, but it will generate these 2 other colors that are all equidistant from each other on the color wheel, which makes your shadows, midtones, and highlights actually look quite pleasing. And you can see this image here that Luca created looks fairly beautiful just by selecting a few different colors. There's a couple other things that we have included. You can obviously go into 4-point or 5-point and adjust the opacity and see how it looks. And 5-point actually does something that's really intricate and unique, and you can decide whatever color scheme that you like. However, let's go back to our complementary for a second, and I want to talk about shift. Shift is a way to change the balance of the color scheme. Let's say right now, as you can see here in the gradient map option, we have the shadows and highlights, or half of the image and the other half of the image, in one tone and the other. But perhaps you would like these warm tones to impact the image a little bit more. What we could do is if we adjust the shift to the left, you can see here that now the balance is shifted to the left. And what that means is that more of the image here is being impacted, because this is very similar to a histogram. And the histogram itself is on the left being shadows and the right being highlights and everything in the middle being gradation. So now we have more warm tones encroaching into the shadow region. And the further I go, the more it impacts. So now this is good because you might not know specifically how much shadows are in an image or where the shadows start and end, but just by pushing the shift left and right, you decide exactly what the balance is going to be. Furthermore, we have another option here called rotation, where if I click on this, it will shift the colors to the left. So here's what I mean. Let me go back to this triadic color scheme really quick so you can see a few different colors. I will reset the shift in the middle here and pay attention to what happens to the colors as I hit this rotate function. And the colors will basically cycle through the different regions like this. So you can see that reddish, pinkish tone go from highlights, midtones to shadows and back again. So it allows you to determine what color you want where within the color scheme itself. And as you look at the image, you can see it actually makes a big difference. Finally, we have a randomize function, which will randomize infinite color to whatever you'd like within a gradient map. So you can see here that the colors will completely randomize as you keep the color scheme the same. And of course, I would recommend maybe reducing the opacity to begin with, around 10% or so, and then decide if you'd like more or less and keep adjusting it that way. The randomization function is very interesting and can by itself be used to create really quick and harmonious color tones, just like that. And simply put, you're able to do it. Finally, you can also hit Option or Alt and come up with another stack as well. So it will then just add another folder with another gradient map. And again, infinite color will remember which gradient map is what and adjust accordingly. And we also have settings. So if you right click on Create, you can change the group color similar to the infinite color portion, as well as the group mask, and making sure it's always on top. So there you go. I think with that in mind, I think, you're able to have a good understanding of how infinite harmony works. Well, that's it for infinite color. I truly hope you enjoyed this demonstration and a look into what this panel can do. I know firsthand that so many photographers have really taken advantage of this plugin to create some incredible pieces of work, both in the commercial and editorial world, as well as personal projects. To learn more, check out our website at infinitecolorpanel.com, where you can see other videos, as well as what photographers and creators have made with it, and also be involved in our Facebook and Instagram groups so you can share your work and so we can also feature you.